everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is going to be on the Rock Island 1911A1 chambered in 10mm auto. This is going to be a number of firsts for the channel. I've never reviewed a Rock Island 1911 and I've never shot a 10mm. But first I want to say that this range report is going to be filmed a little bit different than normal. I got to the range to do all the shooting videos, and unfortunately the range was exceptionally busy, so I was not able to talk at the range. So you got to put up with me kind of introducing each segment before I show it to you. So before I show you my first shots at the range, I just want to talk about my experiences with Rock Island 1911s. First off, these guns are made in the Philippines. And while to some people that might sound a little bit sketchy, it doesn't to me. The Philippines have had a long tradition and history of making quality firearms, especially after the World Wars when the United States pulled out of the Philippines. We closed up shop there with a lot of the small arms factories, but the Filipinos kept them open and kept them running and making quality guns on the machines that we left. So they have been making 1911s there for quite some time, and they kind of know what they're doing. I first became aware of 1911s from Rock Island when I was first getting into guns and I didn't have a lot of money. I always wanted a Colt, but I looked really long and hard at these because they were very affordable. I did have a few issues with them, mainly at the time the Parkerizing. Now this Parkerized finish looks really good, but quite a few years ago their Parkerizing looked a little bit rough, and they used to come with just kind of this flat wood grip panel. Of course you can replace that, but if you're buying the gun you kind of want to be as close as you can to what you truly want. But since that time, I gotta say, RIA has really stepped up their game, and for a budget 1911 you really cannot go wrong. And just handling this gun, it feels really good in the hand. The action seems really smooth. So let's get right to my first shots and let's get my initial reaction.
Come here. Yes, sir.
Alright, so after my first shots with this gun, I was really impressed with how light the recoil was. Now, some people have told me that 10mm today is not loaded quite as hot as it was back traditionally in the 80s and 90s, that it's more of a little bit more powerful 40. So, I don't know, you guys that are 10mm experts will have to tell me more about that, but for me I could definitely feel that this was a more powerful loading than a 45 or a 40. But what I really liked is the fact it wasn't too snappy. Now it could be the fact that this is an all metal frame and this is a pretty heavy gun. Normally I'm not a huge fan of 40. It has to be the right gun, and my biggest complaint about the 40 Smith & Wesson is how snappy that cartridge is. But when it comes to the 10mm, this thing really felt like a very powerful 45. It was more of a thud recoil than a snappy recoil, and I really liked it. I was very surprised and happy about it. I also noticed how nice the trigger was. This is an exceptional trigger for an entry-level 1911. Very pleased with it. The entire thing is very smooth. The pull, the brake, the wall, the reset, it all feels really good and very smooth. In fact, let me show you this on camera real fast, because I'm really happy with the way that this trigger feels. So let's see if we can get this on camera here. So here's the initial take up. So it is just a little bit. You hit the wall, and then it is an exceptionally clean brake. Very easy to feel. You know right when it's going to happen. Then when it comes to the reset, it's pretty darn short. It is really short, and then the take up after the reset is minimal. I gotta say, I know that 1911 triggers can really be tuned really well, and there's a lot of guys out there that will spend a lot of money tuning 1911 triggers. This thing right out of the box feels really good. I would say that in many respects, it's probably better than many of my stock Colts. I'm extremely happy with this trigger. I also really like these grips. These are G10 grips, and they're better than the ones that I think come on them originally stock, those kind of wood grips. So it's my understanding that these are the new grips that they've added, but I could be wrong and I would have to ask Jack. But either way, adding these G10 grips, they have just enough purchase that I think also helps tame the recoil a little bit more. All right, so let's put some more rounds down range and see what else I think.
What's your barrel down? Yeah, no, I see it. That means it's pretty low, so that if you screw that close down, it's plenty more comfortable. What do you want to do?
So as I'm getting used to it, the accuracy is getting better. That one malfunction, I am almost 100% was my fault. I was kind of riding the slide stop, and so I think it was operator error and not the gun itself. I didn't have any other malfunctions with this gun in any way, except for that one time when the slide got locked open. And as I mentioned, I think it was the way that I was holding the gun. So I'm really happy with the accuracy on this. Now I know there's some competitive shooters out there that follow my channel, and I know that there are some professional trainers out there that follow my channel. In fact, one I was even talking to, and he even jokingly said, I suck, and that's okay. If you come to this channel for expert marksmanship, you're in the wrong place. I'm just a casual gun collector and a guy that likes to go to the range from time to time. I think I'm an okay marksman for what I do, but I'm not going for precision shots. That's just not my forte. But as you can see, the accuracy with this gun is pretty good, and I'm really, really happy with it. Now that I'm getting these sights dialed in, I'm going to try to go for the head on this IDPA target.
Hit the upper left. Okay.
All right, so by this time, I'm starting to feel real comfortable with this thing. So I'm gonna take the target now out to 15 yards and see what my grouping is. I'm gonna take my time with this, and I have high expectations that it's gonna be a pretty darn good group. So let's see. All right, so that was not the best grouping and not what I was expecting, but I will always be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna sit there and film this thing over and over and over again until I make myself look better than what I actually can do. So that was my honest grouping. Not 100% pleased with it, but as I said, these are just my first shots and my first 100 rounds on this gun, or clips from my first 100 rounds. So that's what you get. So I guess Patrick R., who watches my channel and commented to me recently about my horrible marksmanship, I guess he's right. I guess I'm not that good, but all the shots were on paper and we're on target. So I'm gonna take that as a win. All right, so in this last clip, before I give you guys my final thoughts, I'm just gonna run it fast. That's just something that I always like to do. Okay, so let's get to my final thoughts. First off, let me show you some close-ups here of this 1911. Now, in many ways, this is kind of a bare bones, basic 1911 made by a budget company, but you sure get a lot for your money when it comes to these Rock Island guns. I do, to this day, still recommend anybody looking for a 1911 and you're on a budget, take a look at this company. You really can't go wrong. Since the early ones that I handled many years ago to the one that I have here in front of me, I see so much improvement and so much on this gun that anybody that wants to get into 1911s will be extremely happy with purchasing this. I have to say that the slide to frame lockup is really good. That is actually a very smooth running action. I'm really impressed with that. As I mentioned, I can kind of be a little bit of a brand snob and I love Colts, but I think this is a little bit better than some of my Colts. That action is a lot smoother. The trigger is better. Now, when it comes to finish, well, Colt has Rock Island beat when it comes to the finish. This is just a basic Parkerized finish, so maybe if you're kind of going for a military look, this is the way to go, but it is an evenly applied finish that does look attractive. As for the other features of the gun, it is a 1911 A1 style, so you do have the scallops around the trigger. You have the basic vertical rear serrations. You don't have much when it comes to front serrations like you do on the more boutique 1911s. And this is a very much, I guess we can call it a slab side gun. They do not put any type of markings on the side of the slide. I'm trying to get this into focus here. But nothing really on the slide, either side, which I kind of wish that they added something. I'm not saying it has to be decorative, but at least something telling you who you made it or something cool on there. It's just a big old slab slide. There's nothing there. You have all of your markings on the lower. They look really nice. Very basic when it comes to the looks. You have the flat mainspring housing, which does kind of feel like it's metal, which I do like. That's one of those things that Colt does that I think they kind of skimp on. They use polymer mainspring housings. This one also has the magwell and the ambi extended safety. That is really nice. You have the beaver tail safety as well and a combat style hammer with Novak adjustable sights. You get a lot with this gun. It is really, really nice. So there are a couple things about it I don't like. This gun does break one of the Texas Gun Vault rules of gun design. And one of those rules is any gun should be able to be field stripped without the use of tools. This gun requires the use of a tool to field strip. And believe it or not, it's not even a tool that they provide or make. It's one that you have to make. If you want to field strip this gun, you have to take a paper clip and you have to bend it into this shape right here. And I know this is going to be really hard for me to try to get it in focus. I don't think it's going to focus. Maybe I can put it back here. But anyway, I know it's a small object, but essentially you have a little hook at the very end that just goes down, and it has to be extremely small. So the way that you would field strip this, you have to pull the slide back, obviously drop the magazine, and there is going to be a little tiny hole in this full-length guide rod that you have to put this way deep up in here and make sure it goes into that hole, which will take the pressure off of the spring when you release the slide. And when you do that, the slide should now move freely without spring tension, and that will allow you to take out the slide stop like a typical 1911. So this does not use the barrel bushing. I don't like that. If you have a problem at the range, problem in the field, and you need to field strip, even if it's just to oil your gun, you can't do it without a stupid paper clip. And there's no special tool, and this is not easy for someone that is not used to guns. I prefer 1911s to be more traditional and have the front barrel bushing. It just makes disassembling these guns so much easier. Now, I know what some people will say, the guns that don't use the barrel bushings can have better lockup and more accuracy, and granted that might be the case, but this is also a budget entry-level 1911 company. I would think that you would want people buying your guns to be able to easily take these things apart and learn the 1911 platform. Unfortunately, you can't do it with this gun. It just takes a little bit more time and effort, and if you do field strip this and this little part comes out of the spring, it's going to fly everywhere in the room, and it's going to take a lot of time and effort to get that spring back on that guide rod. The 1911, as designed by John Browning, was supposed to be disassembled with a front barrel bushing. The whole mechanism comes apart really easy that way. And I know some companies have tried to improve upon John Browning's design. And in some ways they have, but when you change its initial design, you're going to have issues. And this is one of the issues and going to be my biggest gripe about this gun. Now, there are also some Colt 1911s that disassemble in a very similar way. While I don't have to use the paper clip, I have to use another clip on the recoil spring assembly to get the tension off, but it's still the same complaint I've had about those guns. I want a traditional barrel bushing. So if you're a 1911 purist, maybe you understand what I'm saying. But besides that, this is one fantastic gun in one fantastic caliber. Now, I also want to say, because I know some people are going to ask, I was shooting Federal American Eagle 180 grain through this. So I'm not sure if that's a really powerful loading of it or not. As I mentioned, some people were saying that many of the 10mm autos that you can buy today are underpowered, but for me, it was a pretty darn comfortable gun to shoot. So, my overall experience with this is extremely positive. And if you are looking for an entry-level 1911, take a look at the Rock Island Armory 1911s. You cannot go wrong with them. So, on my little star rating, how would I rate this particular gun? Well, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. It does not exceed my expectations because of the disassembly. I think if this would have used a traditional barrel bushing, I would say for the price point and what it is and how it performs and how much I like this, I would have given it 5 stars. But I think to the average gun guy, having to do this to disassemble the gun and field strip it is a little bit too much and a little bit too complicated. Now, I know a lot of you guys that watch my videos are experts in guns. I totally get it. But as I said, my reviews, I try to gear towards someone that may have gone to the gun store and said, hey, I saw this gun. I'm gonna go home and do a little bit of research and look it up and see what other people think. And I try to gear my reviews towards that person. Someone that might not have a huge gun collection, might not be a 1911 aficionado. And I want to show them all of the issues. This is still a fantastic gun. It is well built. It feels solid. I think it's extremely accurate. It is finished well. The fit, finish, and function is beautiful. Tons of upgraded options on this at a budget level price, but it's hard to disassemble. 4.5 stars out of 5, and I hope you guys think that that is fair. So thank you, Jack, for letting me shoot this and letting me try out 10mm for the very first time. I'm definitely gonna have to buy a gun in 10mm. I don't know if it would be this one or maybe like a Glock 20. I don't know. But one day I will get myself a 10mm. Maybe I'll even try to collect one of those Bren 10s from the 80s. That might be the way to go. But anyway, that's another video for another day. So what do you guys think of the 10mm? Have you shot one of these RIA 1911s? Do you own one? What do you guys think? And do you have as favorable impressions of them as I do? So let me know in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.